Hello, everyone.
Good morning. Welcome back. I guess technically it's the afternoon.
To the ReVitalized Podcast.
That's right. My name is Justyn.
And I'm Elle.
And today, we got an awesome episode planned. We got
Yes,
some
we
big
do.
news to share. We got a few questions from you guys to go over. And I think our deputy, a.k.a. Drew, has figured out a fun little game we can do at the end. Because laughter is good medicine.
Absolutely,
If you're not
it
laughing,
is.
you're not as healthy as you could be. It's just that
it's
simple.
true. It's
that
true.
simple.
It's true.
So-
It's not just what you eat. It's what comes out of the words that come out of your mouth too, including
Yeah.
the laughter, right?
Exactly. So welcome back. Thank you guys for being here. If this is your first time watching the show, just to let you know who we are a little bit. My wife and I, we've been working with people with their health for a long, long, long time. We've got like
Yes.
17 years between the two of us. We specialize in family, specialize in helping families get healthy because family's like the most important thing in the history of the whole universe. And if you got a happier, healthier family, that's better than a sicker and sadder family. So we're talking about family. We're talking about health education today. We're talking about making sure that we're living longer, living happier, and stuff's good. A big, big part of that is going to be the food that we eat, which is the first
Yes.
topic of today.
Absolutely.
If you guys have been paying attention to anything going on in the Western world when it comes to food and diet lately, you'll probably have heard about the new RFK food pyramid. Him and the HHS and the FDA have been working hard to try to find a way to help our kids, help our ladies, our guys eat better, get lower chronic conditions, have healthier lives without the use of emergency surgeries and medications and all these kinds of things that people have sort of become dependent on lately.
Yeah.
And we think we got some things pretty right and definitely a lot better than the other ones. So we're
Yeah,
going to talk about that today.
for
We're going to make
sure.
sure we're going over it, where we're going to review it and analyze it. Maybe for this episode and the next episode, we'll figure that out. But new food pyramid. It's a big, big deal. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we should even take a look at the old food pyramid as well.
Yeah.
And because
it was bad.
the
real bad.
comparisons are really different. So one of the biggest things to really take into account is the difference in results. So even if people have different opinions or something like this about food pyramids or how people should eat, at the end of the day, the results showcase how good that method was, right? And so what we've seen is we have seen chronic conditions increase. We've seen how
Go
the majority of people's diets are ultra processed foods. And one of the things that you'll notice with the old food pyramid, right, which was put together based on very old data and more so based on keeping people alive and surviving over making sure that they're thriving. Yeah. And they were saying things like 6 to 11 servings a day of like bread and pasta. And look,
It's like, that's just like,
here's the thing.
even,
Like-
even for survival, that's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, if you need to survive, you need to survive. If that's the
Yeah.
only thing there is. But
If you
like,
live in a town where they only have pasta stores, like, sure, that makes sense.
if you have no other choice, yeah, absolutely. But the point being is like, obviously, there's nothing wrong with whole foods. But the main thing that they were saying is let the majority of your diet be just bread, and it wasn't even specifically like have it be, complex carbs, have it more like oats and rice and quinoa and stuff like this. They were like, no, it's like bread and cereal.
Bread, cereal, pasta,
And
rice.
they also mentioned rice, which is fine. Rice is good, but 6 to 11
Well, it
servings
depends
a
where you
day.
get it from.
6 to 11 servings a day.
It depends where you get it
and
from.
then we wonder why so many people have more chronic conditions. We wonder why
Insulin resistance
especially
is
insulin resistance, yes.
Like everybody and their grandma's got it. It's ridiculous. Just widespread. It's its own pandemic. It's craziness.
And another thing about the old food pyramid, when you look at the comparison as well, is it had protein quite low. And even the new food pyramid, what it is it has about...
It's like the lower end of the baseline.
Yeah. So the new food pyramid has about 2 to 4 servings of meat and dairy, like every day. And the old one had 2 to 3. And so it's really, really, really important to understand that we do have to have protein, and the majority of our diet can't be just simple carbs like breads and stuff. So one of so there was further protein if you look at the comparison between the old pyramid and new pyramid. And then another thing too is the biggest quantity of food that you want to consume is vegetables over grains. So before it was mostly have grains, and now it's mostly have vegetables,
Which is
which is
way better.
way better.
Way better.
Because You guys, like, we have to
significantly better.
Like, we have to get our vitamins, we have to get our minerals, we have to get our raw food in, we have to get our fiber. Like, there's just so many benefits to this new change, and it's not perfect, but it's something that's incredible.
But I mean, as far as like trying to put together a standard that should relatively be healthy for hundreds of millions of people, and then even more than that, because, you know, basically whatever America does, a lot of the other parts of the world are going to try to mimic them and copy off of what they're setting there as a standard or as an influence for the standard. You know, a lot of places like to imitate and model after America.
Like Canada.
Exactly. I mean, we're you know,
we're pretty similar.
We have maple syrup.
They are older, so, you know, there's that.
We have maple syrup. We all live in igloos, and we ride around on a moose when we turn 13.
Yeah,
but other than that,
they don't have that.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Very
pretty
similar.
Pretty
That's
similar.
Right. But I mean, the idea is that this is not a law that every person needs to follow.
Yeah.
This is a good guideline to point you in the right direction.
Yes.
That's the idea. Every single person still needs their own unique diet, their own unique workout program, their own unique sleep schedule, their own unique marriage. Like, you can't just do exactly what everybody else does and expect that your unique body is going to respond the same as every other person. That just doesn't exist. But as far as mass education, mass standardization for the purpose of improving the nutritional density of the Western pattern diet for the population, I think they did a bang up job. At least from my opinion. Really, really good. Protein's better. The grains going down is way better.
So protein is 2 to 4 servings every day, which is, again, like a good, pretty solid baseline.
Yeah.
And then I accidentally said dairy earlier, but dairy is in its own category, and it's about 0 to 2 servings every day. But again, one of the other main contrasts that we should do before we really dive further into the new pyramid, and we'll explain more how you can actually adjust this into your life, is no ultra processed foods, because that's not essential. That's very important. And on top of this too, the old pyramid, if you guys remember the image or have seen the image, it on the top, right, it says sugar and fats, and it doesn't specify healthy fat and bad fat and good sugar and not very healthy for you sugar. It doesn't specify that. And that part is very, very, very important. Okay. So avocado, the fat from an avocado is very different than the fat from canola oil.
Exactly.
Or your McDonald's fries. Okay. Very different. The sugar from, from white sugar, or something you would find in a pastry, you know, something like a sweet that you get from Costco, is very different than raw honey, than dates, than maple syrup. And it is. And a lot of people want to say that they're not different, but you know what? It is different, because one is natural and one is ultra processed.
And even if we play devil's advocate, it's like, okay, but sugar is sugar, same calories, same amount of grams. The 5 grams of sugar from honey and the 5 grams of sugar from a Snickers bar are going to spike your blood sugar relatively the same amount per person, blah, 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 blah. That sort of thing. Okay, fine. But that doesn't apply to the real world, because sugar from natural sources is almost never in isolation. I mean, the closest thing we can find to refined sugar from nature is something like honey, right? But even honey has minerals, has vitamins. You get sugar from fruits. You get sugar from certain vegetables. You get sugar from dates and figs and things like that. Berries. You never see sugar in isolation in nature. It's always coming with cofactors. It's always coming with certain amounts of fibers, maybe some starches. It's coming with minerals, vitamins, maybe even protein sometimes, coming with antioxidants, coming with certain phytochemicals and different things like that. So even if you could somehow argue that the sugar from honey and the sugar from refined sugar is the same thing, it still doesn't apply. It's an irrelevant comparison. It doesn't have any effect on how those foods affect our body, because it's not how we eat it.
Exactly.
Nobody in history has ever taken an orange into a lab, pulled the sugar out of the orange, pulled the fiber out of the orange, pulled the vitamin C out of an orange, pulled the minerals out of an orange, and then ate them all in different parts throughout the day. That doesn't happen. You just eat the orange, or you eat the candy bar. So that's just it's an irrelevant argument.
Yeah.
And again, like what you said about how it used to be on the essential part, even if it's small, ultra processed foods, refined sugars, and mixing sugar and fat together. By the way, that doesn't make any sense, because sugar and fat are totally different in the body. They're opposite things. It's like mixing in protein and sugar together. Why would you do that? But the idea is, we don't have to do anything to incentivize people to eat ultra processed foods. We don't have to give them any leeway in going to get the bag of chips, going to get the can of Pringles, going to buy the supersized Reese's Pieces snacks, because there's already hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars worth of marketing and propaganda to get them to do that. We don't need to say, hey, if you're going to do it a little bit. They're not going to listen to that anyway. And if we just go flat out like they've done now and just say that ultra processed foods and refined sugar and added sugar, like there's just no safe amount, like the same thing they do with alcohol, freaking praise God, it's awesome. It like you just, there's no reason to encourage it. It's already being encouraged by everybody who's making money off that stuff. The government doesn't then need to double down on it and encourage it more. And so they've just gone and done away with all that stuff. And I think that's flipping awesome because, you know, in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, basically every chronic condition that we have today that's popular has doubled. Obesity has gone up by 50 or 100% in the last 30, 40 years. Diabetes has gone up. Heart disease has gone up. Cancers have gone up. Alzheimer's, dementia has gone up. All these different conditions, even in kids, they've all gone up a huge amount. You know, look at the whole autism stuff going on. What used to be 1 in thousands, and now it's 1 in 30. Like, that's wild. And we can't blame all of it on the food, but you can bet your bottom dollar we can blame a lot of it on the food-like products that people have been shoveling into our mouths lately, because we've been told it's okay.
And another point too, to even the sugar thing.
I got a little hyped.
Look at the example is how you can use honey for use honey for its healing properties. Yeah. Right? Like on your skin, or like if you have a sore in your mouth, you can put honey in your mouth.
Name one thing refined sugar can do besides
refined
taste
sugar
good.
Can't do that. Anyways, we could keep going on the whole sugar fat thing, but those would be some of the main differences that we saw between the old food pyramid and the new food pyramid.
Exactly.
And then, you know,
much bigger emphasis on protein. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Okay. You keep going. Ladies first.
Yeah. So
we got to be gentlemen, fellas.
So we already went over those differences. So let's go into the new food pyramid, right?
Yeah. So an increase in protein consumption, which is huge because protein it's gotten popular because of the fitness industry, which is amazing. Super great, because protein's really, really important. And I know we all learned about protein in school, but for the longest time, especially women, were targeted, no, don't eat a lot of protein, don't eat a lot of food, you don't want to get big and bulky, blah, 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 all that nonsense, even though you'll have 20, 30, 40-year-old dudes spending hours and hours and hours a week, dozens of hours a month, trying to get jacked and failing at it, and then you think you're going to sneeze on a dumbbell and put on 30 pounds around your neck. Doesn't work that way. But anyway, we had this whole stipulation around eating teeny tiny little bits of food for men and women. A little bit different marketing depending on who you're talking to. But protein, for whatever reason, got lower down on the list. It's not nearly as important as it should be. There was the whole antioxidant craze. There's the gluten craze. There's the lactose-free milk craze. The protein is starting to get popular lately over the last, probably 5-7 years, because everyone's got platforms now. Lots of fitness people understand the importance of protein, because we all care about muscle. We all care about strength. And you know that you cannot have muscle and be strong without enough protein. So they've been talking about it from that aspect, which is really cool. It's really helpful. But that's not even like the most important reason why you would want to eat enough protein. Super helpful for your immune system. You need protein to make white blood cells, T cells, killer cells, all these kinds of things. Super helpful for your hormones. I mean, you need to have enough protein in order to have enough lean muscle mass, and just to have enough ability to make new hormones in order to have them be balanced. Estrogen, testosterone, growth hormone, all these kinds of things. So emphasizing more protein and quality protein. They mentioned bioavailability in this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. Super cool, because normally that was only a word that, really, really studied nutritionists used, or like super nerdy people in a lab. Nobody else is really talking about bioavailability, but now they are, because it's just great. That's awesome. So they're talking about doing about 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Probably should be a little higher than that for the average healthy person.
Yeah.
But to average stuff out, I think that's cool.
But in terms of the actual food pyramid, the new food pyramid for protein, you want to aim between 2 to 4 servings. Okay.
Right.
So one serving, if you look at cooked meat, would be about 3 ounces. So that's about around like 28 to 30 grams. So like that would be like part of a chicken breast. okay, about 3 ounces of chicken breast, and you want to have that around 2 to 4 times every day, which is pretty good. And again, it could be more depending on your goals, depending on your health level. But the point is that if people are at least having, a pretty minimal amount to help their bodies actually work properly, because again, it's just like what Justyn was saying. It's not enough just to get in calories. You have to have the fuel you need, the nutrients you need to literally power your organs, your systems to work properly.
It's nutrient density, most important part.
Protein is one of the most important parts of your diet. And if you're not digesting it well, and we're going to go further into digestion, but if you're not having enough and you're not digesting it well, then you're missing out big time.
Exactly.
All right. Now, why don't we talk about the vegetable parts of the new food pyramid?
Yeah, just servings and that sort of thing. All right,
so
you go for it. I'm talking.
So, according to the new food pyramid from RFK Jr., they were saying 5 to 7 servings every day. So that would be about 5 to 7 cups. Okay, and if you cook it, so you really want to aim in terms of digestion to steam it lightly. So if you're want to do steamed spinach, or if you want to do steamed broccoli, then you do about half that. So about half a cup would be 1 serving. Another way that we really like to consume vegetables is fermenting it and also dehydrating it. So one really easy thing that you can do is you can actually make kale chips. Kale chips are really, really, really fun. And then again, that would be around half a cup, and that would equal 1 serving. And so you could basically have healthy chips, and then there you go. You're contributing towards your daily intake of vegetables that you want every day. That's going to help give you energy. That's going to help keep you focused. That's going to help with your digestion. And you're not going to overload your system with sugar. You're not going to overload your system with refined carbohydrates that are not benefiting your organs, that are not benefiting your systems, that are not benefiting any part of you as a human being. So, we need to be eating better.
Exactly.
So, take a look at the new food pyramid, you guys, especially the vegetables and the protein, and cutting out the ultra processed foods, cutting out the sugars, especially the fake sugars, and lowering and really taking a look at the alcohol recommended consumption, right? Like Justyn and I, we actually very rarely even consume alcohol. And if anything, we do like organic red wine, something like this. That's
which. When's the last time we had red wine?
Probably like last Christmas, like not the recent one, but the last one.
I think
something like that. And so, anyways, that's the way we do things.
You don't need it to have fun.
But it's just. If we actually care about our bodies, right, you take care and you nurture and you protect things that you value. So if you actually genuinely value your body and have respect for your body, then you will do what is healthy for it. You will do what is beneficial for it. You will exercise it. Okay. You will not overeat. You will not undereat. You will not eat food that is unhealthy for it, that is not contributing to being better and having better longevity. Like if you're eating an excess of overprocessed foods, you are communicating to yourself that you do not care and that there is a lack of self-love there. Right. And oftentimes people have, said like, oh, well, I care about myself so much, I'm going to treat myself. That's not actually treating yourself.
I've had a long day at work, honey. It's been a doozy. I had to deal with this problem and that problem and this problem. You know what? I've earned myself a treat. I'm just going to punch myself in the face right before we go to bed. It's fantastic. I just thought all day long about how much I deserve the black eye. And nobody did it to me. So I'm going to do it to myself.
And, again, it's just like a relationship, right? It takes work. Even when you're tired, even when this, even when that. And there's times for the fun stuff, right? Like making your own dessert. I made homemade apple crisp last night, and it was very fun.
Fantastic, by the way. Absolutely incredible.
But
super good.
But just like a relationship, you have to put time and effort into it, regardless of how you feel. And that communicates just like as you would by taking care of your body, communicate to your mind that you care about yourself and that you're worth respecting and you're worth valuing and taking care of. When you take care of your partner, when you're loving towards your partner, right, you're communicating to them that you care about them, that you love them, that you respect them, that you value them. And when you do that for yourself, meaning you're actually eating good quality food, you're not overeating low quality food, and you're eating enough of the right food, again, you're communicating to yourself that you're worth valuing.
Exactly.
So that's very important. And I think that that's amazing with the new food pyramid.
Yeah. Really good. Really good. Okay. Should we finish up with some questions?
I think so.
Yeah. All right. First question. How does digestion influence overall health, including energy levels, immunity, and emotional well-being?
Okay, well,
that's a thinker.
That
Whoever
is a
asked
thinker.
that question,
that's a great
you're
question.
a thinker. You got
All
that's
right,
a great question.
I'm gonna make this point. Okay,
you make that point,
if
honey.
you eat something, but like let's say you have like a really bad case of an indigestion condition, right? It's very, very bad in your body. You're not absorbing anything. You are having it go straight through you. That's going to affect every single system in your body. So the ratio basically, or the rate of how well you digest your food, is how much you're going to benefit from your food. Food is our fuel. So you have to look at even how a machine would be, right? So essentially the human body is a biological machine. You are not your body. It is the machine that you live in, right?
Exactly.
So how properly the body is fueled determines how well it will operate. And that includes every single system.
That's right. So I got a little guy that I'm working with. That's not kind of weird.
A young man who's,
a very
like he's 10?
a very good and proper 11-year-old boy.
He's 11.
Just one of the families in the academy. I don't know why that came out weird. Anyway, one of the ways that I had to explain it to him, I'll explain it here because I think if it makes sense to a kid, it's gonna make sense to anybody, right? And he's really into cars. He loves racing cars and looking at cars and checking out engines and all that kind of stuff. Awesome thing to get into if you're a young kid, by the way. We need more mechanics. We need more good, honest, righteous mechanics so that all of us guys don't have to keep our heads on a swivel every time something goes wrong mechanically with a car. And we can send our daughters and our wives and our friends to somebody that's not going to try to rip them off and puncture their tire just to change it. Separate issue. Anyways, so we're talking about cars. We're talking about engines. And if you compare your body to a vehicle and you compare your muscles, your nervous system, if you compare your organs to the engine, every one of those things need fuel to go. If there's no fuel in the engine, regardless of how amazing the transmission may be, how awesome the paint job is, how much you spent on the car, what kind of brand name, what kind of model, doesn't matter. If there's not enough fuel in the car for the car to go, the car will not go regardless of anything else. And so in terms of us, with energy and strength and focus, we need to properly fuel the body. There's a couple things we need to figure out in order to how to do that, right? We need to know how much gas the tank can hold. You know, if you need to go 500 miles in a car, if you can't calculate how many miles your car can go on a full tank of gas or half a tank of gas, you're just shooting in the dark how much fuel you got to put in. You don't know. Is it 20 liters? Is it 30 gallons? You don't know. You got to check. So you got to look at the fuel gauge in your own life. You have to monitor how you have been fueling your body, how your energy levels have been, how your digestion has been, how your sleep has been. Unfortunately, we got to look at a couple more things than just a gas gauge on the car to know how much fuel we need, but paying attention to it is the first step. Understanding, do I feel like I'm eating enough? Do I always feel hungry? Do I always feel like I have a full stomach? Do I never sleep well? Do I have enough energy to consistently last throughout the day? Does my energy go up or down after I have a meal, after I eat? Different things to pay attention to, different things to ask. And once you figure that out and you work through that, okay, roughly, I feel best when I'm eating this much protein, this much sugar, this much fat. When I change out the types of foods that I'm getting those nutrients from, do I feel better? Do I feel worse? Paying attention to stuff. Then we got to figure out what is the most efficient fuel we can put in. Some people digest chicken better than red meat. Some people digest red meat better than legumes. Some people digest legumes better than fish. There's lots of different options. We live in a really, really big world with tons of different climates and countries and trees and plants and animals. And so you have an abundance of whatever kind of food you want to get, basically, most of the time, hopefully. And so you got to look and see. You got to experiment a little bit. You got to test it out and try to find the foods that you can work on the best, that are the most nutrient dense, meaning they give you the most individual nutrients and variety of nutrients for as little excess calories as possible. So, for example, clean red meat, a nice T-bone steak, it's going to be much better than a protein snack bar from the gas station.
That's true.
20 grams of protein from a steak and 20 grams of protein from a protein bar at 7-Eleven, not the same thing. Not the same thing at all. Even that protein, it's not going to digest the same. And not just that, but again, going back to the sugar example, it's never just the isolated nutrient. Because nutrients are never isolated in nature. It doesn't make any sense.
One of the best ways to have any food whatsoever
This is how
so
she
it
protects you guys
digests
from
better.
my long-windedness.
One of the ways to have food in the most optimal way for digestion possible is to have food in its most natural state.
Exactly.
So the closer it is to being less touched by people, the better for your digestion ultimately. That's why a steak will always essentially digest better than a random protein bar from a 7-Eleven.
Or the clone meat or the Beyond Meat stuff.
Don't even bother.
Ugh.
Don't even bother.
Ugh. Garbage. Oh, that's a thing. Some people don't like that sound. I'm sorry. If you're listening and you don't like that sound, I'm not media trained, so I apologize. Anyways, so you got to figure out how much fuel can your gas engine take. You got to figure out what are the best kinds of fuel for your body specifically. What kind of fuel does your engine burn best? And then you just have to make sure, are you doing that? And a huge part of it is just monitoring. If you don't monitor something, if you don't measure something, you can't manage it. Most people don't know how much protein they're eating every day. They don't know how much added sugar they're getting every day. They don't know where their fiber's at, where their minerals are at, where their vitamins are at. And so for a period of time, 3 months, 6 months, a year, not forever, but at least a certain period of time where you can pay attention to what's going in and you can learn what food does to your body, what nutrients are in the foods you're eating for your body. And then you can train this intuition that you have and your instincts. And you can do the whole intuitive eating thing, but you have to have a baseline and you got to have a tune on your intuition. So your intuition isn't geared toward ice cream, soda, and Pop-Tarts because that's not intuitive eating. That's just eating whatever tastes good. That's the seafood diet. I see it. I eat it. That doesn't make sense.
So
I don't know why my voice got so high.
intuition when it comes to food is basically like knowing the type of movie you want to watch and then actually looking at the numbers is like actually researching what movie you want to watch when your friends come over. So the point being is intuition can be very helpful. It can give you like a vague idea of something you likely need.
Yep.
But unless you're actually measuring something, you don't know.
Exactly.
And you're making assumptions.
And if you haven't trained your intuition, trained your instincts, the results are totally random. Totally random.
So again, though, regardless of how strong you believe your intuition is, it's still only going to communicate to you so much.
Exactly.
That's why actually looking into it and measuring things is how you confirm what your intuition is giving, it is nudging you towards.
That's right.
And so that is a way, yes, to build up your confidence in what you're hearing from your intuition, but at the same time, you always want to confirm what you're sensing, okay? Because there's a lot of different ways that we can sense different things. There's a lot of different things that can throw off our senses. And maybe we can go into a deeper conversation specifically on intuitive eating. I know that's pretty popular, but overall,
that might be a cool episode idea.
For sure. But overall, there is one element when it comes to knowing what to eat. Yes, is your intuition, especially if you're more of an intuitive person. But the second part is actually looking at the numbers, because it's way too easy to make a mistake and to just say, oh, my intuition sensed this. But then you find out that you weren't getting enough of whatever thing, or you didn't do it in the right way. And then actually that'll end up discouraging you in your intuition. So it's much better to have things confirmed when you sense them.
Exactly.
It's much wiser, and we want to go for wisdom, right?
That's right.
In order to make better decisions.
That's right. Okay, baby, I think we got time for maybe one or two more questions.
Okay, just one.
I'm going to do my best to stop having such long-winded answers.
The next one is, what are the easiest foods to have to support digestion on a daily basis?
Ooh.
So especially when we're talking about really any type of food, the best way is the way you prepare the food, essentially, right? Because we're not talking about necessarily a certain type of food. So I'm sure you guys have heard before about, having, like fermented foods with stuff. That's one thing we do. We also will
Fermented
essentially,
foods are awesome.
essentially incorporating like raw food, but fermented food is basically the step up from raw food where it's also raw, but it's like supercharged.
Oh yeah,
And you can
supercharged.
even digest it even better.
That was actually something I was going to mention earlier. That with the servings for the vegetables,
Yeah.
if one of those servings or two of those servings is fermented raw vegetables, you could easily say that counts for 1.5 servings, two servings.
It also breaks down. It also gets like a little bit smaller. Like
Yep.
think of cabbage as an example. That would actually be the best example. Obviously, when you just cut up cabbage versus when you massage the salt into it and then you put it into like a brine to ferment, it kind of breaks down a little bit, and it is almost as though you steamed it. Like it's like has that same type of
Same kind of
appearance.
softness, and it shrinks a little bit.
And it was shrinking by it like deflates. Like, you know what I mean? Like it has less structure because it's slightly broken down, right?
Yep.
In a good way. So that is the easiest way to get in more vegetables, other than actually just having vegetables ready to eat in your fridge, like carrots.
Exactly.
Carrots,
By the way, fermented carrots, legendary. It sounds weird. Try it. You'll know what I'm talking about.
they're very easy. But anyway, so fermented foods, but overall, it's the way you cook food. The best, easiest, most straightforward way we could communicate to preparing and cooking foods better, other than getting from good quality sources, because of course that's very important to support digestion as well, right? Is to slow cook things. So it's very easy to overcook when we cook with speed, right? So when we try to, like, I'll give you an example where it's like baking versus broiling, right? So you can even miss out on flavor, on things being cooked properly, on the true quality in having better digestion if you cook things too high and for like in a shorter amount of time, versus cooking things slower and then making sure that they're cooked properly and in the right way that you want it. And it'll, why rush flavor, so to speak, right? When you cook things slower, it can actually be a lot better for the protein itself. So
Why
that
cook
would be
food fast when slow cook work better?
exactly.
You
So
know?
it would be slow cooking would be one. Having fermented foods with your food would be two. Extremely simple, and we can go more into that specifically if you guys put a comment below. And then what do you think would be the third one to close us off for digesting food better to support it?
Well, probably, I guess food pairings would be another high one up on the list you could talk about, where you don't necessarily want to mix big servings of carbohydrates with really big servings of protein, or really big servings of fats with tons of servings of sugar and things like that. I mean, you don't want a giant serving of sugar either way, but the idea is just that if you have for example, a protein, which is generally going to be harder for your body to digest, take up more time, more energy, more enzymes, more bacterial activity, that type of thing, than an apple. You can mix protein and an apple together. That's totally fine. But when you have a big serving of a faster digesting food and a slower digesting food together, that can just cause issues. So it can also cause issues when you have foods that need a much more acidic environment, like proteins, red meats, things like that, and a slightly more alkaline environment like a smoothie. So there's different things like that. You don't need nearly the same levels and concentrations of stomach acid to break down a smoothie as you do a steak, because a smoothie's already liquefied. It's already broken down quite a bit from the blender.
Yeah.
And from everything being in powder and that type of thing.
So your stomach acid goes to a different pH based on what it's digesting.
Right.
So when you're digesting protein, the pH of your stomach acid is going to be around like 1.4 to like 2.2, something like this. If you're digesting something like a smoothie or like carbs, like Justyn was saying,
fruits.
this kind of idea, it's going to be around like 3 or 4 of a pH, which is a pretty drastic jump. But
huge.
But so it's like if both of these digest at a different pH, right? Then it's not the wisest to have a large amount of both together.
Exactly.
Because they both digest differently. slightly differently.
Yeah.
So that's why you've heard it before to like have your food in an arrangement, right? So like one after the other after the other.
Mm-hmm.
If it's small amounts of stuff, it's not as big of a deal.
Maybe I should correct myself. When people typically say food pairing, they're talking about like just in general, don't mix sugars and proteins together. That's not necessarily what we're saying. I'm just saying it's more about like serving size pairings. So don't mix large amounts of sugars with large amounts of proteins. If you're going to do a big serving of carbs, like a bowl of oats, a giant sweet potato, things like that, just do a little bit less protein or maybe a little bit less fat than you would typically do if that was the bulk of your meal. That type of thing. Not that you can't mix proteins and fruits together or vegetables and starches together. Those are fine. And a lot of the time, the food pairing thing can kind of get a little confusing for people. But the main idea is just that if you're going to have a high serving of protein or a big serving of fats or a big serving of carbs, is that the other macronutrients, the other two, if you're going to mix some protein in there, you're going to mix some fats in there with your carbs, those are a bit less, and the carb stays the dominant thing, and the protein and the fat become the accessory. If you're going to eat a big serving of protein, then the fat and the carb become the accessory, and you're not mixing a bunch of different food components together that need to be digested in different ways with different enzymes or different stomach acid pHs or different bacterial activity or whatever. And it'll just help overall with being more efficient with your digestive system, that food digesting faster, so you're not staying as full or bloated quite as long if you eat a big meal.
You'll feel more
satiated. Massive amounts of food anyway. That type of thing. And if you do have already some digestive issues, which I'm assuming this person would if they're asking about foods to support their digestion, it can just help to minimize some of those symptoms until you get the root problem dealt with.
So 2 examples of good food pairings would be protein with vegetables. Okay, so think of chicken salad.
Right.
That's a great idea. And then if you're having a sweet, it's good to have it with fat that isn't overcooked. That's a good way to have it, because think of European, as an example, think of like European desserts versus North American desserts. Okay. So one thing that has happened that's really contributed to people having too much sugar at once is European desserts. They focus a lot more on, not all of them obviously, but you get the idea that I'm kind of pointing towards. They focus more on the richness, right? The richness of a dessert perhaps, and then also having it after food. So after you have a meal good in protein and fat, and then also having it with like a good fat, like butter, as an example. Coconut oils, it works really great too. And then we see from a lot of typical commercial, like North American desserts, where it's mostly sugar. And then if they use a fat, it's like canola oil.
Or margarine.
Yeah, or margarine. Or they have the fat lower and they have it like low fat or no fat. And then they just have it mostly sugar. Because there's so much flavor in fat. And when you remove the fat, you have to add more sugar in order for it to taste good. So digestion-wise, when we have good quality fat with that dessert, then that's going to slow down the speed of how quickly the sugar will essentially reach our blood, like get into our blood, okay? Because fat takes longer to digest. Sugar is pretty quick to digest. So the fat will help slow that process down. So fat is better to have with sugar than protein is.
Exactly. Okay. Like one more question, you think?
No. We're good. We're good here.
Yeah?
I think we've talked long enough.
We ran out of time. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it a whole ton. You guys are the reason why we do the show.
Yes.
Thank everybody for being here. All of you guys watching live, everybody watching the recording later. We appreciate it a whole ton. If you liked the episode, feel free to actually like the episode. It does a lot to help us reach more people through social media. If you have feedback, good stuff, bad stuff, comment it down below. We want to read all of it. If something from today helped you and you think you know somebody else that also needs that same help, please share it. Share it with them. I mean, you guys sharing this stuff is the biggest push to get it out there, way more important than the algorithms and all that kind of stuff. And we just thank you guys for your time. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully this was good. Hopefully it was fun. If you laughed a little bit, great. If you didn't laugh a little bit, just let us know that I'm not funny, and I'll just try harder. I'll just keep trying until it works.
Thank you to all of our viewers, and thank you to all of our donors.
That's right. You guys are the best. We appreciate the support. See you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.